Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Establishment Subcommittee for 2015-16, the first meeting. Good luck to all of you. First of all, there is only one agenda item on for today. Is the election of chairman and deputy chairman. In accordance with the procedure, paragraphs 5 to 7A of the ESC, this is the election of chairman and deputy chairman for 2015-16. Now, nominations for chairman. Valid nomination has been made by one member orally and seconded by at least one member. And for the nominated candidate to accept, Mr. Tam Yu Chung, I nominate Ms. Regina Ip. Any seconder? Seconded by Ms. An Chang. Mrs. Yip, do you accept? Yes, I do. Any other nominations? Mr. Ilan Leung, I nominate Mr. Kenneth Leung. Any seconders? Seconded by Mr. Kenneth Chan. Well, I now ask Mr. Sin Chung Kai to chair the meeting because I have been nominated. And ask to see if there are any other nominations. Any other nominations? Mr. Kenneth Leung, I accept. Let me ask again, any other nominations? No? Fine. Would you like to ask the candidates questions? We only have half an hour. But do you think it's necessary? Well, what about asking them to present their platform? Okay, we will do it as FC, 1 minute. Members who would like to ask questions should raise their hands because I have to keep in mind the time we have. First, Mrs. Regina Ip, please. You have 1 minute to present your platform. I think Ms. Elena Wong is misunderstood because we don't need a platform because he's chairman of a statutory body. For the chairman of such body, there is no need to politicize this by asking us to present a platform as long as the chairman is impartial in conducting the meeting. Mr. Kenneth Leung, your see how I conducted meetings and all items submitted to the ESC have been thoroughly discussed and we have performed our duty to monitor the government. And I want to point out that for controversial positions, say for example that in the narcotics division and also a number of posts, we have done a lot of negotiations so that these positions can be created. So other than effectively conducting the meeting, we have to ensure that members have sufficient time to ask questions and for members to perform their duties to monitor the government on behalf of the public. Well, there will be a verbatim record of this meeting. Those who would like to ask questions, please raise your hands. There are 2 minutes each, question and answers included. Ms. Emily Lau, thank you. I have a question for Mrs. Regina Ip. She said that as well, the chairman. Well, she said about the most important thing is not for it to be politicized. I'm sure Mrs. Ip, being a legislator for so long, that the council itself is a highly politicized arena. You all have your stance. There will be a debate, and in the end, there will be a vote. Establishment Subcommittee is about civil service posts, sometimes creations and sometimes deletions, and the public are very concerned about it. She said that meetings should be conducted effectively. What does she mean? So everyone is swiftly endorsed or what? Government officials should explain in detail their proposal and answer members' questions. Well, we have to set aside some time for the answer. Well, there will be time for members to ask questions. Will Mrs. Yip promise us that? Mrs. Yip. The Legislative Council, as the name suggests, is a legislature. Of course, there will be a lot of opportunities for members to state their political stance, and we have a lot of long meetings. As the chairman of a statutory body, he or she will have to be impartial and conduct the meeting in a very efficient and effective way. The court has made it very clear in the judgment of cloture. As a chairman presiding over a meeting, one of the duties is to make sure that the meeting is conducted smoothly, and that of course include giving members enough time to ask questions and for officials to answer. So don't worry. Miss Helena Wong. Just now I asked the two candidates about their platforms. Mrs. Yip just said to me, in effect, well, what's the point of asking? You don't know anything. Isn't what she said? I think it's a very poor attitude of a candidate of the chairmanship. She practically said that why do we need a platform? It's arrogant. It's a very poor example of civic education. All candidates should be frank and honest in face of questions asked by voters. I asked what your platform is. I did not provoke you. I have a vote. Why do I have to vote for you? Or why do I have to vote for the other person? Of course, you have to present your manifesto. Is it the case that in the future, Mrs. Yip, when you chair the meeting, we won't be allowed to ask questions? Then why do we have to appoint you? We can get anyone. Mrs. Yip. Miss Helena Wong is a doctor, and she distorted my words. Is at the level of the council? There's no need for me to answer her. Let me ask again. Mrs. Yip, if you are the chairman, well, how are you going to chair a meeting? Is it the case that members will not be allowed to speak because you outright refuse to give us your platform? Well, I have given you my platform. Chairman should be impartial and unbiased to chair a meeting effectively and efficiently, and to allow members and officials to answer questions. If you want my platform, refer to the website of the New People Party. Sorry, time's up. Now, the staff will distribute a ballot paper to each member present, and members will also be given a chop with a tick. At the end of the voting time, I will announce it. Let me say it again. Please look at the screen. Candidate number 1 is Mrs. Regina Yip. Candidate number 2 is Kenneth Leung.
Major. 要派咗幾多張先要？你唱啦，你唱。葉建源，請你快啲去。
Mr. Kim Yun, please go back to your seat as soon as possible.
葉建源嘅座位喺邊度啊？
Where's Mr. Kim Yun's seat. Sit next to Miss Mac, please.
OK，我再問。
Let me ask again. Members who are present. Anyone who hasn't received the ballot paper? Anyone who's present has not got the ballot paper? Okay, everyone's got one. Our distribution of ballot paper has finished. There won't be any more ballot papers distributed, even for those who have just entered. We have distributed 39 ballot papers. I'll now ask staff members to collect ballot papers. Please put the ballot paper into the ballot box in person.
就交咗。
After you have put the ballot papers in the box, the two candidates, please get ready to come out to supervise the counting of votes. Nominates is Mr. Tam Yu-chung and Mr. Alan Leung. Mr. Tam and Mr. Leung, please get ready to come out to supervise the counting of votes.
好，唔好倒好，唔好倒住，等第三個箱嚟晒先，係啦，等埋兩個箱嚟晒，等埋兩位監票人一齊先。
Wait for all the ballot boxes and the two persons supervising the counting. Anyone who has received ballot papers and has not put the ballot paper into the box. If not, voting has finished. Now counting of votes.
何議員，請你揾個位坐啦，你已經過咗秒啦。
Mr. Ho, just find yourself a seat. The clerk has collected 39 ballot papers, which is the same as the number distributed. Now we will read out the ballot papers. Number 2. 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 Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2. Number 1. 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 Number one. Number one.
2號
Number two. Number two.
等我再核對先。OK。得。OK。就我而家宣布結果。
I now announce the results. Candidate 1, Ms. Regina Ip, receives 24 votes. Candidate 2, Kenneth Leung, receives 15 votes. And I hereby announce that Ms. Regina Ip is elected the chairman of the Establishment Committee. I now invite Mrs. Ip to preside over the election of the vice chairman. Let's proceed to the election of the vice chairman. The clerk reminded me that I still have 13 minutes. Any nominations? Dr. Ann Chang, Wong Kwok Kin. Any seconded by Mr. Chen Kem Lam. Mr. Wong, do you accept the nomination? Yes. Any other nominations? Ms. Sit Ho, Mr. Kenneth Leung. Anyone who seconded the nomination? Ms. Emily Lau. Mr. Kenneth Leung, do you accept the nomination? Yes. Any other nominations? If not, we have two nominees. Ms. Helena Wong, please. We will have a minute each. Yes, no manifesto. Yes. I have no manifesto. This is not an election for LegCo members. I would tell you, I would say that I would act according to the rules of procedure. Dr. Kenneth Leung, do you have any manifesto? Chairman, as I mentioned, one of the key functions of the chairman, and I hope everyone is familiar with the rules of procedure. We published a pamphlet recently on the LegCo rules of procedure, and some cases and interpretations were given. I hope all members, whether or not you're chairman or vice chairman, would familiarize yourself with that, with the contents of that pamphlet. Thank you for the comment. So let's proceed to the voting. Please distribute the ballot papers. Anyone who hasn't received a ballot paper yet? Please raise your hands if you have not received a ballot paper. We have distributed 40 ballot papers already. The distribution of ballot papers is ended, and we will start collecting ballot papers.
請蔣麗芸議員同
Dr. Ann Chang and Ms. Sit Ho, please come forward to supervise the balloting. Counting begins. We have collected a total of 40 ballot papers. The ballots would be read out loud. Number 2, number 1, number 2, 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 number 1, number 2, number 2, number 1, number 2, number 2, number 2, number 1, number 2, number 2, number 1, 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 number 2, number 1, 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 number 1. Can the clerk verify the ballots once more? The counting is ended. A total of 40 ballot papers were collected, and candidate 1, Mr. Wong Kok Kin, receives 24 votes, and candidate 2, Dr. Kenneth Leung, received 16 votes, and I announce that Mr. Wong Kok Kin is elected the vice chairman. That's the end of today's meeting. We will announce members of the day of the next meeting. Thank you.